All right, so what we're doing is looking at this TAFDC eligibility calculator, and just try running through to see what we have right now. What kind of information do you usually ask people for? And do you like go through this level of detail to prompt them through all the different types of income that they might have? Or do you, yeah, I guess maybe you're not doing that.
Yeah, normally, when people come to us when they have been denied for some reason, but we don't normally go through like whether someone is eligible just from the start. It's like see what DTA reason is for doing them and then go off that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I normally, I don't think I've asked much of my clients about like SNAP isn't relevant.
Right.
The rest of it, I mean, probably is relevant. But yeah, I feel like most people, the income that they get is like SSI, or they're working or job or and then SSI.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. They're looking for subsistence. They probably don't have all of these other types of income. Yes, there are some things that you need to have at least one kid, I'm guessing, too, right? And what is the age requirement?
So the child just has to be under 18. There's like some exceptions to where if they are graduating, if they're set to graduate before they turn 19, then they can be 18, but otherwise they stop once they turn 18 because they're eligible.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's, yeah, that's for like eligibility.
Let's just try a little information here. Okay, so let's just think through what are some of the things that we might want to change in this interview so far to make it a little bit more useful.
Well, the SSI thing is just because the rules are different, they don't count it.
They don't count SSI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is definitely something, but then that also, there's a child who gets SSI, and that child isn't counted in the grant at all, or your income isn't counted. So that would change someone's eligibility.
So they're not counted as being part of the household either.
Yeah.
So it's two parts.
So then
Okay.
if there were like, if someone had one child with SSI, then they wouldn't be able to get TAFDC for the child, but they could get it for themselves. So then it would be a in which case the maximum grant amount would be less.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Okay. Okay, so the first is don't count SNAP. Second, we have to exclude adults' SSI income. So it's not counted towards the household income at all if it's from the adult. And for the child, is it only if it's survivors? benefits?
Yeah, if it's RS.
Okay. Otherwise, it is counted. If it's personal.
No, if it's RSBI, then it's counted.
Okay.
If it's SSI, then it's not.
other than as an exercise, do you think there's something that you might use or like pass on to people to help them?
Yeah, if we, I think it would definitely be helpful. I mean, the thing with TAFDC is that normally it's fairly easy to figure out once you know, like the trickiest part is figuring out which income is countable or not.
Yeah.
So, but once you have that, then they can figure out what their grant amount should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely it could be useful for like, I would think for like providers that might not know like what is countable.
Yeah.
Necessarily. But I think it would be a little, it would have to be.
So I'm thinking like probably something that helps is to list all the options that are common and then let the computer figure out which things aren't countable, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that our income module does that right now. It doesn't let you exclude income. It lets you go the other way and say, only show me this type of income. But there are definitely ways I could extend the income class, or we could just go through it manually and do the math ourselves in the file. Think about this. So right now, we just launch someone right into this. So like the first thing I think about is we're going to have probably change this ending screen to make it something that can be called as the last screen. So if everyone can remember, what would be the right specifier that we would use there to say it's an ending point? Okay, we're gonna give it an event tag. We're gonna do here. No problem. So let's call it ending screen, or just ending is probably fine. Or maybe, yeah, ending. So the other thing that we're going to do is, like right at the beginning here, let's add another code block. I'm just going to control the order of the questions. I'm giving it an ID because I've learned that when we make it mandatory, it's good to give it an ID. That helps Docassemble not run it 4 times than it used to. Okay, so we're going to have our ending screen. Let's also add an introductory screen, because people probably don't want to launch right into what's your name. That's the first thing that they see. So we'll name it intro screen. And let's go here after the code block. So I'll write something and then let's talk about like how to make it better. All right. So just thinking about like interview design questions now, mostly. So this is what we have so far. What do you think about how we might make this better?
If you're financially eligible, right?
Okay, so being more specific, that's one thing right away. Yeah. We probably could have, what are the other eligibility criteria? Are they also things that are screenable in the calculator?
Possibly. So like things like shipments.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it would just get too complicated if we tried to do all of it, because there's like the group for like if the grandparents with the child versus like parent with the child, and like who's included in the household and things like that, which I don't know if, I don't know what you think about it. Do you think it would be too complicated to try and go through all that, or?
Yeah, it's good. I think probably to target at least the first time the 80%. So we can give people a good idea. Questions, it's good, and maybe list some of the rules. But on the other hand, people do like tend to rely on calculators, so I think it's important to not overstrain. If we're going to make a mistake, tell someone, we think you're eligible, but you should check to make sure.
Yeah, yeah. There's, I think special rules for like, it's just like really complicated, but because things like the teen parents, their parents, all that kind of stuff. I think it might be like too much for something like this, where it would be better for like an applicant to look at them.
What else about the screen? I think if you were going to use this.
I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I think one thing I would think is we're gathering a lot of information from somebody. So we should probably give them an idea about what kind of information they're going to need to have ready to go. So we don't want someone to start it and then find out halfway through that they don't have enough information to do it. So I'd like to tell people that. So maybe the right way to say somebody's income information from Social Security. It's not a statement. It is. Just for other information that shows how much. And the last piece of information I like to give people is like how long they should expect to take. So 20 minutes probably is realistic for this. I'm going to change it from interview to questionnaire. So I think those are just like the practical things. Like, so what is it? Like, what do you need to know to use this? And then how much time should you be setting aside for the resources and the time you can finish it? All right. Hi, I see someone just joined us. All right. Yeah, if you have a chance to introduce yourself, feel free whenever you're ready. All right, so let's take a look at some of these other things that we've written down that we need to add into rules. These are kind of for ending statements. Let's take a look again. So those are two things I think we probably won't be easily able to do right now, but let's look down a little bit and see what else we had. So we had our grand total calculation, and looking at the amount of assets. Expenses, I remember, aren't relevant, right? Okay. So we didn't need those at all. So one thing we had here was our income limits. We didn't go all the way up to the end. And is there another way we could express those? Is one question I have. Same with the asset limit. Is that a fixed number, or is it something that might change over time? Okay. All right. I think everything else is good. Anything else that you can think of that we might want to add into this? That might be something we could do.
I was just thinking about child support, the rules are really going to change if the
Mm-hmm.
but for children, for families that don't have family cap children, the first $50 a month in child support is disregarded.
So if the rule changes or that people expect, then it's going to turn into everyone will get that $50 discount. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I guess with the assets, do we have a program to include vehicles in that?
Yes, it does. Actually, I think vehicles are listed separately from assets. Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
So assets are including cars.
Okay, so then what are the questions that we have in how do we have that? Maybe there's like certain amounts of the car that is disregarded as well.
Okay, so it's a dollar value of the car that's disregarded, or does it depend on?
Yeah, for $15,000 with one car.
So for Social Security, they don't want to know about anything other than, they don't want to know about your family car and how much that's worth. Is that true for TAFDC? They do care about the family car?
So they do care about how much they are. And yeah, they'll just look it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's actually probably would be possible. Let's take a look at that and see if we get an API. The question is like, how much information do you need to collect from somebody?
I've done it before, and it's just been like the car, type, model, year, and mileage and color, I think.
Oh, okay. So they don't look at anything else for the condition, just
Yeah,
mileage.
it's just on that. I can like see if I can. We were wondering exactly how they do it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, we might not need to. We might just tell people to put on the number that you think it's worth first.
Yeah.
But.
The problem is that a lot of people are like, well, the condition is like bad. And
Right.
so they're like, oh, it's probably like $1,000, but then DGA is going to accept that unless they do it good. When they look at your car.
Total or appraisal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
appraisal, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
That sounds interesting. So does that trick up a lot of people, the car value?
I mean, most of the clients that we have don't have super new cars anyway.
They're not
so
worth
it's like
$15,000.
fine. Yeah, it's a bigger problem with the ADC, because the limit, I think it's like the limit is $150.
Oh.
So yeah, it's really low. And then the car, I think they only start like $1,500 in the car or something like that. So then they're a lot more people that you don't.
If it's still running, it's going to almost be really hard to be under that
And
limit.
I just had a client that that's really cheap car for their job.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, there are a lot of rules, and we want to make sure we use them right.
yeah.
Instead of using the interview file to calculate the rules, it might be good to make like a separate Python code that does all the calculations and does it the same way every time that other people could also use. Something I'm thinking about. So it might work with the regular income objects, and then just go through and like take out the right amount from child support, take out the right amount from the adult SSI income, so on, not count SNAP, anything else.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
there's like
countable.
a lot of other things that are not that are like more rare that people know. So like if you're in there or you're money like you can't afford like other things. So and then it's also more complicated. Like it's very complicated.
Are any of the ones that are on here looking like they should be counted, besides SNAP?
Well, for SSR, what is the difference between
It's like regular Social Security retirement income.
oh, okay. The TAFDC would be on there.
Of course.
And then the budget.
It kind of incorporates a lot of these other things, and in Massachusetts, it wouldn't really make sense to list it separately. But we could probably put EAEDC on there. Yeah. This maps onto what Social Security asks for on their form, so it's the same exact categories. But
and then
yeah.
for budget and then for is that
Income from rent
okay?
and income from board payments that are made to you, which are kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Is that something that you want to prompt people about?
I feel like if you just have rent, that would be, but I feel like some people like be confused and think that is like rent
That they pay. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's something that.
I agree. Let me see.
And then if you read it, then if you read it closely, then you know that it is, but.
No, when you see a list, people like to click things on the list and not read the instructions beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing that I can think of is like for other support, some people might write down like, oh, my sister gives me like $2,000 for rent or whatever every month, and that's like not countable.
It's not countable.
Yeah, it doesn't have a legal responsibility to like do that.
Okay.
So that would be like a little bit more of a complicated, like another one.
Yeah. No. So could there be a situation where they would get other support that is legally?
So like if you have a spouse or if someone gives you like, if someone gives you cash that is not for like a specific reason, then that would be countable.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just a question of like what they're giving. If it's cash.
Do they have a reason that they're giving it
And
to you
is
for?
it understood to be like a specific, so if like someone gives you money and then you just get to decide what you do with it, then that's really countable. But if they're like giving money for your rent, then it could be.
That makes, all right. So
yeah, it's low.
what does what did DTA do to figure out if somebody has that kind of income?
So someone would have to write a letter for you, like, so like, for example, one of my clients, she doesn't have any income and her rent is $2,000. So they're like, how are you paying this? And so she's like, well, my sister is paying. So normally that comes up when someone's living expenses are more than what their income is.
Okay.
They have to do, they're gonna have to like tell DTA how it happened and like verify it.
That seems like a good thing to check for people, right? So if your living expenses, but we don't necessarily want to prompt people to go through all their expenses.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, it's not really relevant to whether they're eligible. It's, whether they're eligible.
Okay. Yeah, that's, in other words, like it's something that's good to know, and maybe to let people know early, but it's not going to change necessarily how they use the calculator.
Yeah, the calculator is just a question of whether DTA is going to make it verify. Which in the first application there was to make verify.
Okay.
Like the reevaluation. And then with the assets, it has to be an asset that is like readily available to you that you have access to.
Okay.
Something like if you're but like the bank account is technically in your name, like that should count as your but that would require like having. So I don't know if there's like some questions that you would have where it says like things like maybe like when CPA to like verify this or figure this out, like contact an advocate or something.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so maybe it would make sense to say, hey, it looks like you have too many assets. Some cases, people don't have to count all of their assets. You might want to talk to an advocate if that's the only reason they're being included.
Yeah. I don't also in the assets, I don't remember like a home was included. I know yet, but that's not as long as they're living interest.
Okay. So family house is not counted, but family car is. Only after 15 seconds.
If there's one more than one car, doesn't like a one would be on it. Like it doesn't matter if like they live that up.
Yeah. That makes sense that would be. All right. So this financial statement, I think I have a better one that I could use too. Actually, let's get that actually. So there are two ways to go when you're trying to use someone else's financial statement or any piece of interview that they've written for you in advance. You could just copy and paste the code in. Or you can override the question. So if you have another question that gives the same information, Docassemble will use whatever one comes later in the file, if that makes sense. So let's, yeah, so like literally in the order, like reading from top to bottom. So like the bottom question takes priority over the one that's closer to the top. So what that means is if you want to include stuff and have your own questions, make sure the included happens towards the top of the file. So let's go ahead and change our, so we had to include here. And I'm just going to change it so that instead of including the one from the package, we're including the one that's just in my local playground file. And we should see like a couple of differences. So like that shouldn't be, it should be asking a different version of that question actually. I'm not sure. It shouldn't ask you where the income's from if you already said where the income's from.
And that's just if there's like multiple income, or like which one it is.
Yes. So the way that it's supposed to work is, and it does when it's in the security interview itself, you can get prompted with some, and then you can add more. And the prompt that says like what types should translate into this being pre-selected for you. And you only see this version of it if you haven't already checked the box that says what type of income it is. Okay, that's fine. All right, well, this is, I think, I mean, this is a little bit different from what we've been doing usually. Usually we're like going through really specific Docassemble problems. This is more about how to plan out the interview. Do you have any questions? I'll spend 5 minutes just doing this.
So the way that it works right now is just to determine whether someone is eligible or not. It doesn't give them an actual calculation for, let's say.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because you can do the math part too. Yeah, right. Doesn't do that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, I think there are like even more rules, like how to use tools in the financial analysis, like what is actually counted for. So it's just
Okay. What I would do, I would say is there's a lot of different ways to like get the rules out of the interview file. The simplest way is just to put into a Python file. I was playing around with this other idea called, so in business processes, a lot of people already are thinking of how to model questions of like who gets what, who's eligible for what. I think like a common example that people use in this is like who gets bumped from an airplane. You have like these rules, you have like a big table of rules for like based on information that you know about them. Who's the person who gets to keep the seat if there are enough seats on the plane. And they wouldn't write out the rules in something like Python. They use this combination of something that's like a flow chart, but it's a special kind of flow chart, and something that looks a little bit like more like a spreadsheet where you write down the rules. And I think that might be like pretty useful to have available inside Docassemble so that you can have people check the rules, see if they make sense, they can visually see them all at once, and then aren't people who write code.
Okay.
On the other hand, it's also another thing to learn. It's not just like you know right away how to read the rules. It's like a separate thing to learn that all you think is easier than Python, but it's hard to know, sure. Yeah. But I think what we're going to do is like, let's make a new file called like TAFDC. So we would make a new module file here, and we would want to have in there something like this: is eligible income, and it would get, as an argument, it would get the income object, or it could be like a list of income objects, I guess. A list of income lists. So we would move our code that we had here. And this limit here and this list of income thresholds in here. So that way, instead of having all of those lines that we had in just indent these. We could take all of that out of the interview file, and it would just be like a one single call. So we would replace this in the ending here to like we would just say, let's see, what is it? Client.incomes, status.incomes, household.incomes. So this is like getting a little bit more advanced because we haven't really done Python programming outside of the interview file yet, but I'll just break it down a little bit. So the first thing here is we made a new function. So we talked about how you can use functions. Here we actually made a new one in this module file. And this is how we call it. So you just write the name of the function, parentheses, and then it can have arguments that are passed to it. So those basically, if you think of like a algebra formula, it's like the x, right? And we've already familiar with variables. These are variables that are used by functions, so it's by template. So inside, it's getting, does that look familiar, that syntax there with the brackets, and it's a little small on the screen? But I know it's been a while, it's okay. So it's not one item here, right? So yeah, so the brackets are in a list. So it's a list that we didn't give a name, it's an unnamed list. Okay. So we took all of the incomes that we collected, which, yeah, it looks like I got the names right. Household.incomes, spouse.incomes. And we have to include the jobs too, which we didn't do. And then we're passing them all to this function. And it's going to do the totaling for us. We don't have to worry about doing it ourselves. Yeah. And it could also do things like skip it if it says TAFDC. We don't even want to show that, but we want to ask people probably about things like, maybe we don't want to ask about SNAP either. Unless people are going to be tempted to put in the other field. People don't necessarily think of SNAP as being income.
I think most people, at least from the interest that not really, like they don't really put SNAP there because people don't think of it whenever they ask them something.
Right.
But you're right about things.
So it can do all of that kind of processing for us, and it does it in a way that's separate from the interview file. That's the benefit of putting it in a function. Right.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Pick up that.
Yeah, please.
This might or might not work. So Matt, now we're just down to the two of us. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
I don't have anything quite yet, but this
Okay.
has been great seeing you use some of these common components and things like that, and things to keep in mind as we're creating variables in classes. Either way, whether we get the TIG or not, I know that I would love to talk with you further about seeing how we could use or build on a number of these things that have already been established, so we can share those and make development more rapid, more efficient. So yeah, I think I'm okay for now, but this was great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, cool. Let me just, I think I can